Good morning, everybody. Thank you for hanging in with us. I know it's been a long morning, so I would just ask that you just give me 20 more minutes of your time. I know that sounds like a lot, but there's pizza afterwards. My primary function here is a financial aid officer in our financial aid department. That's my main job here. But my other job is the campus's Title IX coordinator. And for those of you that don't know what Title IX is, it's a very old regulation. It was passed way back in 1972 as a means of removing any type of sexual discrimination from college campuses and institutions. But it has been expanded in recent years to include many other things other than just sexual harassment. It also includes sexual violence. It also includes domestic violence. It also includes dating violence. It also includes stalking and bullying as well. So Title IX has become a much broader law than what it was originally passed for. And so you can see up there what Title IX is. It prohibits sexual discrimination in education programs that receive federal funding. Douglas Education Center is an institution that receives federal funding. Sexual harassment, sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, stalking, they're all forms of discrimination that are banned by Title IX. So the Title IX coordinator, myself, along with an appointed committee, it is our job to make sure that Douglas Education Center is free from all of these forms of sexual discrimination and sexual harassment. VAWA is the Violence Against Women Act. It was originally implemented back in 1994. It was reauthorized by President Obama in 2013. And what it does is it imposes new obligations for colleges and universities in regards to sexual violence, dating violence, domestic violence, and stalking. And it really, what it does is it acts as a complement to the regulations that were already in place as a result of Title IX, and it just it further imposes institutions to develop ways to better protect the students and employees. So today what we're going to discuss is our policy on different types of behavioral misconducts. We're going to discuss the statistics, sexual violence and consent, alcohol and its role in sexual violence, bystander intervention and how you can help someone who has already been assaulted, and the neurobiological changes in individuals who have experienced assault. We'll also be touching on dating violence, domestic violence, stalking, reporting and its importance, our investigation procedures here at Douglas Education Center, and also resources as well in case something would ever happen to you. So our policy is pretty simple. When it comes to sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, we don't allow it. We're 100% against it, and we're committed to having a institution that is free from it. And that includes all of the things that you see listed there: bullying, discrimination, harassment, hazing, intimidation, stalking, any type of sexual misconduct offenses, which include assault, harassment, domestic violence, dating violence, and sexual exploitation. So our job here is to make sure that this institution is free from all of that. And if you ever experience anything like that while you're here, it's very important for you to know that we are here to help you. That's what our mission is. Without you, we don't exist. So I don't want you to ever think that you're alone. If something happens to you, you're alone and there's nobody here, there's no resources, there's nobody for you to turn to. We are here for you. The reason why this is so important, and the reason why a few years ago the government came in and strengthened all of these regulations and added new regulations, is because for a long time, sexual violence and other things on campuses just went unchecked. Either universities ignored it, they tried to sweep it under the rug, they didn't take it seriously, and there were a lot of people that were getting hurt and they didn't have any resources or outlets to go to. That's no longer the case, and it's a big step forward, and I'm particularly proud to be a part of helping our institution be free from these types of discrimination and harassment. But you can see the statistics up there, why it's so important. so many people face sexual assault in camp when they're in college. 1 in 5 women, 1 in 33 men. Freshmen, particularly freshman women, are the most vulnerable for sexual assault. 8% of all sexual assaults occur while the victim is attending school. So you can see those are pretty sobering statistics up there, and it's a very big problem. Some more statistics for you. Women 18 to 24 who are enrolled in college are 3 times more likely than women in general to suffer from sexual violence. Male college-age students are 78% more likely than non-students to be a victim of rape or sexual assault. And sexual assault affects men and women regardless of their sexual orientation. So when we say sexual violence, what are we talking about? Well, we're referring to any activity where consent is not obtained or freely given. And it occurs anytime a person is forced, coerced, or manipulated into any unwanted sexual activity. And these are the types of these are different types of sexual violence. They include rape, sexual assault, sexual exploitation, unwanted or inappropriate sexual conduct, and sexual harassment. And again, it happens in the absence of consent. So we need to talk about what we consider consent. Consent is something that is knowing and voluntary, and it exists from the beginning of each instance of sexual activity to the end. It can be withdrawn at any time during it. That's important. That's what some people don't realize, is that it can start out, and if somebody changes their mind, the consent is withdrawn. And it's demonstrated through mutually understandable words or actions that clearly indicate a willingness to engage in sexual activity. So if somebody is drunk and they can't communicate clearly to you, and you think that gives you the go-ahead, it doesn't. The person has to clearly be able to communicate with you. There has to be some sort of mutual understanding that is occurring. So alcohol plays a big role in sexual assault, and you can see it's present in 75% of all sexual assaults on campus. It's not really hard to understand why that occurs. And we also understand that while you're here, many of you are not old enough to drink, but we also understand that that will probably occur anyway. So I want to give you a little bit of knowledge, about that. Alcohol dampens inhibitions, we all know that. It causes people to focus on limited information. It causes people to communicate less effectively. And when it's mixed with stimulants such as caffeine, it can make you feel less drunk than what you actually are. So when you go to a party and there may be alcohol present, it's important to have some tips. So when you go there, you're safe. And we call it bystander intervention, and it's all about being an ally. And these tips, they're pretty self-explanatory. They don't need a lot of explanation, but they're simple, but they're very effective. If you go to a party, go with a group of friends, arrive together, check in with each other frequently, and make sure that you all leave together. Have a buddy system. Don't be afraid to let a friend know if you're worried about their behavior at a party. If somebody is drinking too much and you feel like something may happen to them, if they're acting in a way that may get them into trouble later, let them know. Be a friend. That's what friends do. If you see somebody that's intoxicated, offer to call them a cab or offer to take them home yourself. If you see somebody in danger of being assaulted, step in and offer assistance. Ask the person if they need help. Before doing that, though, make sure to evaluate the risk. If it means putting yourself in danger, please call 911 instead. Also, don't leave. If you remain at the scene and you're a witness, a perpetrator is less likely to try something. If you know the perpetrator personally, tell the person that you don't approve of their actions, ask them to stop, ask them to leave the party, ask them to leave the potential victim alone. If someone you know has already been assaulted, that's one of the, I don't know if anybody has ever experienced that. It's very hard to know how to communicate to somebody. You want to make it better. You want to make everything okay. You want to immediately, fix the problem. The most important thing that you can do is to listen to them, to be there and don't be judgmental. Be patient with that person. Remember, sometimes it takes a person a long time to deal and process with what's happened to them. And help to empower that person. Listen to what they want. Ask them what do they need to do to make themselves feel safe, and what can you do to help them? There's a few more tips here. You can encourage your friend to report the incident to law enforcement, 911 in most areas. Let your friend know that professional help is available. Resources, there's a wealth of resources, and they are in your orientation folder. They're in a pink packet. There are a lot of national organizations, and we also have a lot of local organizations in the area that offer free help. It's anonymous help. You don't have to pay for anything. You don't even have to give them your name. If your friend is willing to seek medical attention or report the assault, offer to accompany them wherever they need to go, the hospital, the police station, my office. Encourage them to contact one of the hotlines, and again, those hotlines are on the packet that's contained in your orientation folder. So one of the things that happens when somebody goes through a sexual assault or sexual trauma, there's a neurobiological change that happens, and experts liken it to post-traumatic stress disorder that's suffered by veterans. Victims of sexual assault are 3 times more likely to suffer from depression, 6 times more likely to suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, 13 times more likely to abuse alcohol, 26 times more likely to abuse drugs, and 4 times more likely to contemplate suicide. So there are a lot of changes that go through a person's mind, and it really takes a long time for them to process everything that's happened to them. And the best thing that we can do as allies, as people that care about that person, is just to be there and support them in whatever way that they need. Dating violence is also something that is covered under the Title IX regulations, and dating violence is any type of controlling, abusive, or aggressive behavior that occurs in a romantic relationship. And it happens whether you're straight or gay. It can include verbal, emotional, physical, or sexual abuse, or a combination of one of those two. And 43% of college women and 28% of college men have reported violent and abusive behaviors from somebody that they were dating. And these are just examples of controlling behavior, not letting you hang out with your friends, telling you what to wear, calling you names, belittling you, threatening to hurt you, somebody in your family, or themselves if you don't do what that person wants. So as far as dating violence goes, we have a lot of information in my office. I have a lot of resources for you. If you're in a relationship, whether it's somebody that you met here, whether it's somebody from back home, if you're experiencing something like that, we have resources that can help you. And again, they're anonymous and they're completely free. And we've had people use these services in the past, and it's really helped them. Domestic violence is any sort of violent confrontation between family or household members. Domestic violence, although the school cannot act on domestic violence situations, again, we do have resources that can help you. Stalking is a pattern of repeated and unwanted attention, harassment, contact, or any other course of conduct directed at a specific person that would cause a reasonable person to feel fear. And stalking can be done physically. It can also be done electronically. In fact, a lot of stalking these days is done over the internet. 1 in 6 women will experience stalking in their lifetime, and 1 in 19 men will experience stalking in their lifetime. If you believe if you are experiencing stalking, you should do what it says up there. Do the following: communicate to the stalker. If it's safe to do so, let them know that you're not interested. Try and cut off all interactions with the stalker. Notify authorities. Keep records of all instances. Limit your social media usage that's accessible by your stalker. And finally, you can come and see me because I do have some excellent resources for stalking, including a little logbook that you can keep of each instance that the stalking has occurred. I will tell you that if you go to the police, one of the things that they love to see is documented instances of every time stalking occurred. So this little logbook that I can give you, you can just mark it down, and when you take it to the police, they love to see that because that helps them do their job. So there are many warning signs of abusive behavior, somebody that is an abusive person. These are just some examples of somebody that could have an abusive personality. Somebody that talks over you or doesn't really listen to your point of view, somebody that is particularly argumentative, somebody who doesn't follow rules or show respect for other people, somebody that is exchange-oriented, they want something for anything, somebody that defines themselves by their sexual conquests, somebody who is often high or intoxicated because they're incapable of acting rationally. And anybody that shows any kind of violent tendencies, these are warning signs of a person that may have a larger problem. And if you encounter somebody like that, you want to be wary of that person because it could lead to something serious. And if you have any type of fear or worry about a person, you can always come and talk to us. I think that would probably be the biggest thing to take away from what I'm telling you today is that please please come and talk to us if you need us. I talked with one student a couple months ago, and they said, I've never been in the administration building because it always seems like you guys are so distant from everybody. And in some ways, we kind of feel that way because there's not really any classes in the administration building. So unless you need to be there, you often don't come and see us. But we don't ever want you to feel that way. Like I said at the beginning of this, we're here for you. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here. There would be no classes. There would be no Douglas Education Center. So if you're having a problem, if you're having an issue, if you just need to talk, I've had students just come to my office and talk for 2 hours because something was bothering them. They just needed to talk to somebody. They just needed to talk it out. That's why we're here. So don't ever feel, we know that you're not going to be in the administration building a lot, but if you need us, please don't ever hesitate to come and see us. That's why we're here. I want to talk a little bit about victim reporting. Reporting is one of the hardest things that a person can do, and if you've never had to go through it, it seems odd. Something happens to you, you want to go and tell somebody and make sure that it doesn't happen again, but that's not always the case because people process things in different ways. And sometimes, particularly in sexual assault, reporting the crime is forcing that person to relive the crime all over again, and in some ways it can re-victimize that person. So it sounds easy, but really in a lot of cases, reporting is one of the hardest things that a person can do. But we encourage you to do it. And we recognize that it's not always an easy decision, but believe me, reporting can have a positive impact on you, and it can also have a positive impact on the campus community, because if something bad happens, we can work to prevent something like that from happening again. A little bit about reporting here. Douglas Education Center, we are not the police force. So if you say, they did something to me, we cannot go in with handcuffs and arrest that person. However, we can take actions at the school level to make sure that it doesn't happen again, and in serious cases, if needed, we can remove that individual from the institution. The reason why I say that is, if you come and tell us that something happened to you, that does not obligate you to go and tell the police. That's a separate procedure. If you just want to come and tell the administration and have us handle it at a school level, we can do that. If you want to go to the police, you can do that as well, and we can accompany you to the police station if you would like to do that. But reporting to us does not obligate you to report what happened to you to law enforcement. And I want to assure you that any time that you report anything to us, we will keep it in the strictest of confidence. And confidentiality is a big thing, and we don't want to, when I say confidentiality, I don't mean that you're not allowed to talk about what happened to you or share your experiences or your perspective. But as far as details and things that you don't want getting around, we respect the confidentiality of that, and we would also ask that that people involved in an incident also respect the confidentiality of all the people that are involved. So who can you report to? There's many different people. There's me. There is Tony, who is the Director of Admissions. You met him earlier. Deborah Wise, she is the Director of Financial Services. You met her earlier as well. And Kim Myers, who also works in the Financial Aid Department. These first four individuals are the Title IX committee. So we are in charge of whenever somebody brings a case to us, we are in charge of investigating it, we are in charge of documenting it, we are in charge of resolving it and making sure that it doesn't happen again. But you know what? You may not feel comfortable reporting to one of us, and that is perfectly fine. Some people may not want to report something to a man. Some people may not want to report something to a woman. Some people may not just like the 4 people up there. So if that's the case, you are free to report to anybody that you want. If there's a teacher or a faculty member or a staff member that you feel comfortable with, you can make that initial report to them. Now, eventually that will get to us because we will want to make sure that you're okay. We will want to make sure that we resolve it, and we will want to make sure that it won't happen again. So I just want to let you know a little bit about the investigative process. Our entire investigative process is on that pink packet of paper that's in your orientation folder. But we try to make sure that everything, once an incident is reported, we try to make sure that it's resolved as soon as possible. We try to make it, we say 14 business days, sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes it's just a little bit more complicated than that, but we try to do it as quickly as possible and make sure that everybody is okay during that process. Prior to or during the investigation, you have several rights, and the students' rights are in that packet as well. But one of the things that you can request is a change in your academic or your living situation. If it's possible, we will make sure that those accommodations are met. Sometimes it isn't possible, so I'll just be upfront with you. Sometimes those requests are not possible, but if it is, we will do that, and that can occur before an investigation even starts. Sanctions, there are a variety of sanctions, and they will vary depending on the severity of the situation. They can include interpersonal violence education and training for the person that has been accused if they're found guilty of doing so. Changes in academic and living situations for both the accuser and the accused. An order of no contact for both the accuser and accused while they're on Douglas Education Center property. A little bit about no contact. As you know, we are not a sprawling metropolitan campus, so we are a small campus. And so when I say no contact, yes, it is very possible that you will see that person again while on campus. You may pass them. When we say no contact, we say no interaction while you're on property. Unfortunately, we can't say that you'll never see that person again, but what we can assure you is that we can remove any interaction between the 2 people. And if somebody violates that, we will take corrective action to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And in the most serious cases, that can result in expulsion from Douglas Education Center. We have not had to do that yet, but if it warranted it, we wouldn't hesitate to do that. Retaliation is expressly prohibited by Title IX regulations. Once an investigation is concluded, we come up with a resolution, and we present the resolution to the accused, and we also present the resolution to the accuser. They read over it. If they agree with it, they sign it. If they want to appeal, they can appeal to the president of Douglas Education Center. But once that resolution is signed, you're saying that you're agreeing to abide by the terms of the resolution. You're also agreeing that you're not going to retaliate. And if you retaliate, whoever retaliates, the situation becomes much more serious for that person. And we have to take stronger corrective reaction. And if we have to remove somebody from the institution, we would do that. So I talked about resources. Like I said, there are a wealth of resources. I have a ton, and more are located in your orientation folder in that pink packet. In addition to today's presentation, we are also going to be sending out to you an online training program. It's called Not Anymore. We are required to do different educational opportunities throughout the year, so our online training is one of our continuing educational programs. You will receive that via email within 2 weeks, and it'll give you the link, and it doesn't take a long time to complete. It takes about a half hour to complete. I've streamlined it for you guys, so I know that you're busy with school and your life, so I want to make sure that it's as simple as possible for you. But there's a lot of good and powerful information in this presentation, and you will receive updated emails every month during your first semester to complete the training if you haven't done so. Thank you. So thank you for sticking with me. And again, I just want to reiterate, please come and see us. If you need our help, that's why we're here for you. And I hope that I never have to see any of you in my capacity as Title IX coordinator. But if I do, I assure you that we will address any concern that you have promptly and confidential. And thank you very much for your time this morning. And I guess it's time for pizza.